The Minecraft end has barely changed over the last 12 years and it needs a big update. So I spent an entire month completely transforming the end dimension with custom new biomes and so much more. This is the story of my craziest build ever. The build that almost made me quit this world and might have even killed me. Transforming the end is a project I've wanted to do in this Minecraft hardcore world for months, and I think we're finally at a point where I can take on a project this big. But my plan for building this end update is going to be by starting with a center portal, then going around the entire end island adding tons of new biomes, which I think is going to look so cool. First thing I did was dig out a huge hole underneath the portal. This was because I had a plan to use the glass fog effect we've seen before in our world, which I think would look really cool alongside this portal. The problem is, that requires a lot of glass. And mining sand for hours doesn't really sound too fun. So I think I'm gonna try something I've never done before. I'm gonna try to build a sand farm if I can get through this portal. And this farm is gonna help me create sand and concrete powder, both of which I'm going to be using a lot in this build. I'm back at the storage room to grab all the resources for it. The farm is designed by Raiseworks, and I'm following a tutorial by Shulkercraft. And this thing actually works really well for how little materials it's going to require. Alright, let's take all our materials, take this over to the stronghold, and get working on this farm. In order to get this farm to work, we need to remove part of the portal frame, which I'm okay with because I plan on transforming this whole area later on and removing this farm. We can go over here, place down a piece of dirt right there, I think. And then if we bone meal this, it should. Yep, there we go. It just completely deleted part of this end portal frame, which is kind of crazy. Now we can go ahead and do that one more time. And now we should have this extremely cursed portal. But this is the setup for our farm. This farm works by pushing sand and other blocks like it through the portal, which somehow multiplies it and allows us to get a ton of sand. I ran it for a little bit and we got quite a bit of different materials. I've started loading them up into these shulker boxes. We're back at our base with all that sand, but there's still one more problem. We need to smelt all of that sand. So I think I'm going to build a real simple super smelter. I've got these super smelters worked out, and all 8 of these hoppers will take from the chest boat. While this is all smelting, I need to go out and collect a ton of dye for all this glass. And I could build a flower farm, but for some reason, I just feel like we've built enough farms today. I just kind of want to go out in my world and collect the flowers myself. Collecting all that dye by hand was actually a lot of fun, although I'm probably gonna have to bone meal more. This probably won't be enough, but at least it'll be a good start. And for this fog trick, we're gonna start by covering the entire bottom layer here with a light source. We're gonna use these frog lights. Now we're going to take on the extremely long task of going layer by layer, skipping one block each time, placing glass. That's going to create a nice fog effect, but it takes a lot of time and a whole lot of glass. That turned out pretty cool, and it looks kind of familiar. Anyways, I still need to add a bunch more details of this portal to call it complete. First, I think we need to attach it to the ground. I'm going to build sort of a pedestal out of deep slate to try to connect it into the fog. Let's go ahead and attach this down. I think we'll have to go a few blocks into here, so it looks like it just fades off. Yep, that pretty much looks infinite. Alright, next up, I also want to replace all of these walls with deep slate, which means we're going to have to dig down quite a few blocks, not all the way to the bottom, because it'll fade out eventually, but far enough where it looks like the deep slate goes on forever. That made a huge difference, but I have one idea to make it even better. We're gonna add a border here. I think this portal transformation turned out really well. And now I want to get started on one of the hardest parts, probably the hardest parts of this entire build, which is going to be building up all of the different biomes. I have a few ideas for biomes, but the main one I have inspiration for right now is this purple biome that we'll get to in a second. I want to figure out how we're going to divide the biomes exactly, and I'm going to use that by carving a bunch of rivers going off in each direction to help separate the areas of this island. This river took a surprisingly long amount of time to make, and before I build the next one, I'm actually going to work on our first biome, which is going to go in this area here in front of the river. What we're going to put in here is, oh, actually, I can just show you. If we head over here, I'm going to show you a design I worked on in my creative test world. Here's the general design I had worked out for this biome. And I'm definitely going to change it up a lot since I built this, but I still feel like this is a good base level. We're going to have some purple concrete, some purple concrete powder, and then these sort of mushroom fungi things up here. And we're trying to add details like amethyst, blackstone. I think this could turn out really cool. Anyways, back to the hardcore world. Before we can even start building stuff like that, I want to work on terraforming the area because it's kind of weirdly shaped terrain right now. I want to add some hills, flatten some areas out, and just make it an overall better area to work with. So let's do that right now. See what I mean? This area is so much easier to work with now, which means we can get into my biggest time lapse ever, a literal week-long time lapse, and finish this first biome. So the biome's done. It took a really long time, but after I built it, I kind of realized my Enderman farm kind of looks bad compared to it. So I'm going to update it right now, make it look a little bit nicer. Here's what almost a week's worth of tree building looks like. I think all these mushrooms turned out great. And I think we've created a really immersive biome here. Just going to the middle of this thing, all the different mushroom fungus things. And I think it looks great, but it looks even better with shaders. Just look at this. It takes it to a whole nother level with these shaders on. I think it's about time to move on to the second section of this huge transformation. The next biome I want to work on is, oh no, I don't have a pumpkin on. I gotta stay in the air. The next area I want to work on is this area here. And I want to do something way different from this biome. I'm going to try to use some more darker blocks, basalt and deep slate, and maybe have some stuff like glowstone on top to add some color. I have a really good idea for a biome, but it requires, like I said, a lot of basalt. Thankfully, we can farm that. A basalt farm functions pretty much like a cobblestone generator, except it has to be built in the nether. And what better place to build it than up here, above our hogland farm. So while we're mining the basalt, we're also producing food. It's a win-win. However, I have a feeling this might be build height up here. Actually, 3 blocks. Will that be enough? We might have to move down the platform a few blocks. Got the beacon here, super easy basalt farm here, and it should just work just like this. And we should get way too much basalt in like 2 minutes. This next part here I didn't even think would be part of the video. I noticed my hogland farm wasn't working too well, and I realized there was a bastion straight under it, so I decided to go down there and clear it out. Little did I know, I might just have ended my entire series. Looks like a bunch of them are down here, so hopefully be able to kill them from here. I know these things could very well take me out in like 2 or 3 hits. This is not a good spot. Oh no. My totem's gonna pop here, which is gonna give me fire. It's gonna give me fire resistance. I have to swim down so the hog can hit me again. I gotta eat my food. And I've gotta get my way out of the bastion before my fire resistance. All right, we've got 36 seconds of fire resistant. Oh no, I don't have it. I don't have it. Swim up, swim up, swim up, swim up, swim up. Go, go, go. Please, 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 please. And at that moment, I was sure I was about to lose this entire world forever, and everything we had ever worked for would be completely gone. Before this, I never even considered what might happen if I died in this world, what would be next for me. But I knew I had to try and see if somehow the few seconds of spawn protection could maybe get me out of all those hoglands. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. Oh my god. Oh my god. No way. No way. And somehow I actually survived. And now I was more motivated than ever to get back to working on our project and to never go to the nether dimension again. And more ready than ever, I decided to take on our second biome, which I started by placing all of the basalt and some deep slate that I collected as well onto a giant area of the end. Like I said before, this biome is much darker than the other one, so I think it's going to contrast really nicely. All the basalt and deep slate I collected just nearly finished just placing it on the ground, but we still have a lot more to gather if we want to make stuff like hills and cliffs and mountains and stuff like that. I feel like changing up the terrain like this really made a big improvement to this area. And now, I've just got one more big thing to do. The second thing I want to do in this biome is add a bunch of these glowstone things. And here's the new biome. It's looking really good, especially with these shaders on. As you can see, I went through and added a lot of more details other than these glowstone tree things, like skeletons and blackstone all around, just to add as much detail to this as possible and to make this the most time-consuming thing of my life. But now I want to turn my attention to the center of the end. I want to turn this into more of an arena. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to add another circle just like this one to the outside around the end pillars. Then we're going to flatten it out and add a bunch of new blocks. I think it'll help it feel more like a boss fight rather than just random pillars in the middle of a random island. I think it'll turn out pretty cool. Now this area feels much more like an arena, much more like a boss fight than it did before, and I am super happy with how this turned out. I tried to make this a little bit more detailed by adding some pillars and some ruined like little potholes in the ground, but I'm probably a little bit too scared to try to fight the ender dragon in this thing. I feel like it might end up destroying half of the biome. But if I want to make some major progress on this build, I'm going to need to work on this front section over here. And for this next section, I want to make more of a water area like this, with a bunch of winding rivers going off the edge of the end, right over here. And I actually think I know the perfect block for this area. Let's head back to the overworld. And wow, it feels good to see the sun again. It sure has been a while. Let's actually see if I have some of the block already. I want to build with warped fungi. We do have a lot of it already. This warp block. I want to build with some of this, as well as some of the warp nylium, just like this. These two blocks, I think, will work pretty well in the end with the other biomes we already have. And so I began our third biome by adding 3 or 4 rivers into this area, really making this biome unique from the other two. I have all the different rivers laid out here, so our next step is going to be flying down here and placing down all of our warped stuff. So let's go ahead and grab a bunch of this and do that right now. Here's what our third biome is looking like so far. I really like it. I think all these rivers going through it, as well as all the little blue details around here, really makes this area come to life. I still feel like it's missing something, and I couldn't figure that out until I had an idea. We should add skulk. This is much better. That skulk added just a little bit of detail this biome needed. And believe it or not, I think that marks this project complete. Of course, there's a little bit more at the end we still could transform, but I've done over a month of work, and I think it's time to release this video for you guys to enjoy. So, thanks for watching, and please subscribe for all the work I put in for this. Thank you guys so much for all the support we had last year, and let's make 2023 even better. See you guys next time.